All right, folks, this is a somewhat quick but not so somewhat terrifying update from Gaza. So this is the new Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz. Yoav Gallant resigned famously probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago now. This is a message to the residents of Gaza. The first Sinwar destroyed Gaza, and the second Sinwar will bring its complete ruin. Soon, the evacuation of the population from combat zones will resume, and what follows will be far more severe. You will pay the full price, meaning you, the residents of Gaza. This is not targeted at combatants or militants. Return the hostages and remove Hamas. The alternative is total devastation. Okay, so this is subtitled, so if you have this window open in the background, you're going to have to watch this, not just listen, so be warned. But here is Israel Katz's full statement.
זאת פניית הזרה האחרונה.
Citizens, is your last
הסינואר
warning.
הראשון הרס את עזה, והסינואר השני יחריב אותה לחלוטין. תקיפת חיל האוויר נגד מחבלי החמאס הייתה רק הצעד הראשון. ההמשך יהיה קשה בהרבה, ואתם תשלמו את מלוא המחיר. בקרוב יתחיל שוב פינוי האוכלוסייה מאזורי הקרבות. אם לא ישוחררו כל החטופים הישראלים, והחמאס לא יסולק מעזה, ישראל תפעל בעוצמות שעוד לא הכרתם. קבלו את עצת נשיא ארצות הברית, תחזירו את החטופים ותסלקו את החמאס, ויפתחו לכם אופציות אחרות, כולל יציאה למקומות אחרים בעולם למי שירצה. האלטרנטיבה היא הרס וחורבן מוחלט.
Okay, so there you have it. Just outright threatening complete devastation, taking the threats beyond combatants to the entire population, saying you, meaning the Palestinian people, have to expel Hamas or else you are all as culpable as them. That is essentially what he is saying there. And this goes back to what do we say right after October 7th? We said you cannot ascribe political agency to a group with no political autonomy. This being, for the most part, the Palestinian people. Hamas is essentially a prison gang installed by Israel to create a permanently radicalized Palestinian military so that Israel could then justify not negotiating with them, blockading the Gaza Strip, and eventually exterminating them. That was the point. That is why Benjamin Netanyahu funded the creation of Hamas. So the Palestinians were never in a place to displace them or to dislodge them from power, even if they wanted to. And now you're saying now, with Gaza in this shape, that it's incumbent upon them to what? Lead a people's revolution against their government, or else they're all going to be blown to pieces? That's what he's saying there. That is just an explicit threat against the civilian population. That is exactly what he's saying there. Here is, oops, what do we do here? Oh, I forgot to put the headline there, but this is Dave DeCamp's piece from antiwar.com. Dave DeCamp, who, by the way, will be appearing on this show on Tuesday. We are excited to host him. So he wrote a piece here. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz issued a direct threat to the civilian population of Gaza on Wednesday, telling the residents of Gaza to expel Hamas and free Israeli hostages or face utter destruction and devastation. Katz warned that the attacks on Gaza will get much worse than the bombardment Israel unleashed starting on Tuesday morning, which has killed at least 436 Palestinians, including 183 children. The genocidal statement from Katz came as the Israeli military began a new ground invasion in Gaza, retaking the Netzarim corridor, which separates northern Gaza from the rest of the Strip. Israeli strikes have also continued amid a total blockade on all food, fuel, aid, and other goods entering Gaza. So more on this blockade here. Israeli military retakes Netzarim corridor in Gaza, kills dozens in new strikes. So there is the corridor there, which kind of divides the north and the south. On Wednesday, the Israeli military launched a new ground offensive in Gaza and retook the Netzarim corridor, a strip of land that separates northern Gaza from the rest of the territory, as fresh Israeli strikes killed dozens of more Palestinians. Israeli military sources told the Jerusalem Post that Israeli tanks entered the Netzarim corridor and described the ground invasion as, quote, limited, although they didn't rule out expanding the invasion in the coming days. The Israeli military withdrew from the Netzarim corridor under the first phase of the ceasefire deal, allowing Palestinians to return to the north, which had been completely destroyed by Israeli attacks and demolitions of homes and other buildings. Israeli forces remained deployed in a buffer zone the IDF created along the Israel-Gaza border that cut into Gaza's territory by about 1 kilometer. Israeli troops have also remained in the Philadelphia corridor, which runs along the Gaza-Egypt border. Under the ceasefire agreement, the IDF was supposed to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor at the end of the first phase, but Israel refused, one of its many violations of the agreement. Israel has now totally abandoned the ceasefire deal, which Hamas has said it remains committed to, and is now threatening to expand its bombing campaign and invasion of Gaza. So as you saw there, Israel Katz, the new defense minister, dropping all pretense. And this is what we said was likely to happen. Under President Biden and under President Harris, Gaza was on the same trajectory to suffer the same fate. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it would have ended any better, but what did we say? We said it would go slower, it would move slower, because Biden or Harris would have to come out and push back against a statement like that,
Right.
because it's too offensive to the sensibilities of their base to just make explicit threats against the civilian population. They would say, no, you have to pretend that you're only targeting combatants. You can't just come out and say we're punishing the entire population, whether you're a combatant or not. You have to act like you have to just keep making the same human shield argument over and over again, right? That's what you have to do. You can't just come out and say that. With the new sheriff in town, you can come out and just say that, and this whole thing could get much more nightmarish very, very quickly.
Yeah, he didn't just threaten collective punishment. What's really interesting about the statement is what he's promising in exchange for meeting their extortion demands is ethnic cleansing of the region.
Right.
That's the reward.
Right.
We could talk about moving you to other places in the world. Not we're going to rebuild your home and make it even better than ever. No, we'll move you. That's what you get for doing what we tell you to do. You'll get to be erased from your land.
Yep, exactly. Now, he said for those who choose to, meaning the alternative is going to be living in hell, because we all know what their plan is for Gaza now. It is Donald Trump's plan. This is why they preferred to have Trump in power, because they could do this much quicker. Now, like I said, from the Palestinians' perspective, this would not have ended any worse. This would not have ended any better had Kamala won, but it would have been a slower process. This is just totally mask off. They are allowed to just say this now, because Donald Trump said, I will support anything the Israelis do. Anything the Israelis do. The Democrats can't do that. Democrats have to make up bullshit about how, Rafah's our red line, right? Even though it's not. They have to say that, right? They can't just come out and say, nope, you have a blank check, do whatever you have to do. These are horrible, sick people, do what you will with them. That's the line out of the Trump White House, and they are taking advantage of that very, very quickly. And what's wholly evident now is that the ceasefire that was negotiated was really just to get a mutual win-win for Trump and for Netanyahu. Netanyahu needed a win to get some hostages back. Trump, I think, really wanted the hostages back so he could use them as a photo op for his big inauguration
wanted his
weekend.
Reagan moment.
Exactly. Wanted a Reagan moment kind of thing with the hostages. And that seems to be what that was all about. There was obviously never a serious commitment to a lasting peace on Netanyahu's part or on Trump's part. And now you are seeing what we expected we would see on day one of Trump's second term, delayed, but not canceled. Not canceled. This is just going to be, horrible on a scale that we haven't even witnessed before, at a pace that we haven't witnessed before. The strikes on Tuesday killed 436 people. That was one of the deadliest days of the war. That was one of the deadliest days of the whole thing. Maybe even the deadliest. I don't know if a single day resulted in more casualties. Maybe in mid-October of last year when there were no safe zones established, but that was the deadliest day in a very long time. And I think it's only going to get worse. And now you see Israel just feeling completely supported in statements that are just nakedly genocidal. There's no more pretense.
Yeah, I don't think you can find an analogy in history really where you have this country that because of this unique history, they're able to hide behind that as a justification for committing a genocide. And their Western partners, who really, if they're to be honest about it, cooperate with Israel in order to use them as their agent in a very important strategic region.
Right.
They get to hide behind that too, as if they're supporting Israel as an act of justice. And to be able to weaponize language around the Holocaust and the horrors of the Holocaust in order to go so far as to violate all standards of free debate, freedom of the press, freedom of protest, to literally arrest people who oppose you. Um, I I can't think of an analogy to this. I don't think anything like this has ever happened, where you have a state that's fully supported by the West committing genocide in broad daylight, not even couching the language,
Nope.
using the language of war crimes, of international war crimes.
Of course.
And the answer from our own government is to arrest green card holders.
Right. Yes. And green card holders who have something to say
Yeah.
about the genocide of their people. They're on trial.
Yeah.
And this Israeli state is not on trial. Not only are they not on trial, they have the full blessing now out in the open to do whatever they want. Like I said, that statement, you would not have seen that statement under President Kamala Harris because that's giving away too much. They'd have
Right.
forced them to play cute about it for longer, which
Right.
would have resulted in just as many dead, would have been the same goal.
Sure.
I'm not making an argument for Kamala Harris, but I'm just saying now that they have in the White House a man who, for whatever reason, as Caitlin Johnston said, it could be for any one or two or three of a whole host of reasons, is completely and totally owned by Israel, completely, in ways that you don't even know about, really.
Please clap.